Morning television is meant to be bright, easygoing, and safe. Smiles over coffee, light questions, and celebrity charm. But when Meghan Markle took her seat on the This Morning sofa, across from Allison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary, that soft veneer quickly fractured. What began as polite chatter spiraled into one of the show's most combative segments ever. Allison tried to keep her signature warmth. Dermot stepped in to soothe the atmosphere. But Meghan's sharp, defensive tone kept raising the temperature. By the time it ended, Allison's patience had snapped. Meghan had walked out, and This Morning had etched itself into TV history. The familiar theme music faded as cameras swept across the set. Sunlight streamed through glass panels, glinting off bright floral arrangements on the coffee table. Allison's booming laugh launched the show. "Good morning, everyone. Today we've got a very special guest. Actress, activist, and former Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle." Polite applause followed as Meghan entered, graceful and deliberate. Her hair framed her face in soft waves, her smile precise, almost too rehearsed. Allison leaned forward for a hug, but Meghan extended only her hand. A subtle shift, but the air cooled. "Welcome to This Morning, Meghan," Dermot said warmly, gesturing toward the sofa. "Thank you," she replied, clipped and polite. "It's always interesting to be here." Allison brushed off the frost with another laugh. "We're thrilled to have you. You've been busy. New projects, appearances, plenty of headlines. Tell us what's going on." Meghan's smile stiffened. "What's going on is purpose, focus, using my voice to elevate conversations beyond gossip. That's what matters." The words carried an edge. Dermot nodded smoothly, steering forward. "And your upcoming project. Can you share more?" "Of course. It's about truth, about giving people a chance to tell their stories without being edited into caricatures. Something I know quite a bit about." A ripple of laughter broke out, half supportive, half uneasy. Allison pressed on, undeterred. "Wonderful. But people are also curious. Life away from the UK, your new home, family balance. Are you happy?" Meghan's lips curved into a smile that never touched her eyes. "Happiness isn't a gift, Allison. It's a decision. And I've made mine." Polite applause again. Dermot shuffled cards, but Allison leaned back in. "And Prince Harry? You've both been working on separate projects. How's that partnership balancing out?" Meghan's eyes sharpened. "You don't ask working men how they balance things with their wives, Allison. We both have schedules. We manage." "It's not complicated." The warmth drained from the room. Allison laughed nervously. "Fair enough. But people adore you together and they wonder, how do you juggle it all, especially with the kids?" Meghan's voice hardened. "We juggle privately. My children aren't morning show material." The audience stirred. Dermot quickly pivoted. "Let's turn to your Netflix series. Reports say you asked for a higher budget for the new season. What's your response?" Meghan gave a short, cutting laugh. "When a man demands fair value, he's a visionary. When a woman does, she's greedy. I don't chase pennies, Dermot. I command worth." A smattering of applause. Allison raised her brows, forcing another smile. "Strong answer. And people can't forget your comments on the monarchy. You've called it outdated before. Do you still feel that way?" Meghan crossed her legs, posture tightening. "Tradition doesn't equal righteousness. Centuries of history don't erase harm. I don't romanticize institutions that wound." The studio fell silent. Allison exhaled, her cheerful mask slipping. Dermot adjusted his tie, his voice smooth but strained. That's certainly something for people to reflect on. But in the control room, producers already knew. This was no ordinary interview. The tension was only beginning. Dermot cleared his throat, shuffling his cards. "Let's talk about your creative side, Meghan. Viewers love the storytelling in your projects." Dermot said, "Do you see yourself moving more toward documentaries, scripted series, or even writing?" Meghan gave a polished smile. "I don't box myself into categories. I create. Whether that unsettles the industry or not is their problem." Her tone was smooth, but the condescension beneath it clung to the air. Allison clapped her hands a beat too brightly. Well, that's very empowering. But of course, with storytelling comes responsibility. Some critics say your work leans heavily on your own personal journey. Do you feel that's fair? Meghan tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. When men make films about their trauma, they win Oscars. When women do it, we're accused of narcissism. Maybe the problem isn't my storytelling, Allison. Maybe it's society's bias. The audience, normally lively, sat in uneasy silence. Allison forced a chuckle, clasping her hands tightly. I'm only asking what people wonder, Meghan. And speaking of personal journeys, she softened her tone. How's Harry? He's such a beloved figure here in the UK. People miss him. Meghan's smile vanished. Harry doesn't belong to anyone, Allison. He's not a souvenir Britain can pine for like a lost postcard. He's a man, my husband. And he's thriving without constant tabloid intrusion. Her sharpness startled even Dermot, who leaned forward quickly. Of course. And the children, Archie and Lilibet. Our viewers often ask how they're settling into life away from the palace spotlight. For the first time, Meghan's smile dropped entirely. My children are not for public consumption. The world doesn't get to demand progress reports on them as though they're reality show contestants. Allison nodded stiffly, eyes betraying unease. Of course, we respect that. Still, families at home watching often relate to public figures balancing parenting. It inspires them. Meghan let out a cold laugh. Then perhaps families at home should focus on their own children instead of obsessing over mine. A soft gasp rippled through the audience. The temperature on set dropped. Allison's famous laugh didn't come. She sat straighter, lips pursed, her warmth cracking. Dermot raised a hand, trying to redirect. Let's turn back to industry. Reports suggest you demanded a higher budget for your new Netflix season. Some say money, others say creative control. Can you clarify? Meghan crossed her arms, leaning back. Clarify? I don't explain myself to rumor mills. Netflix knows my worth. If the press is scandalized that a woman negotiates, that's their issue, not mine. Allison's jaw tightened. But Meghan, isn't it fair to say those negotiations keep your name in the headlines? You stepped away from the monarchy, yet you still command global attention. Doesn't that contradict your desire for privacy? Meghan's tone dripped with disdain. Privacy doesn't mean silence, Allison. I didn't abdicate my humanity. I use my platform as I see fit. If people can't understand that, it isn't my fault. The silence that followed was tense, electric. Dermot shifted uneasily as Allison tried again, this time softer. But surely you can see why the public might be confused. You've spoken often about wanting peace, yet you remain very much in the spotlight. Meghan gave her a pointed stare. Peace doesn't mean disappearing. It means boundaries. If the public struggles with that, perhaps they're too used to women being silent and compliant, the audience murmured. Half approving, half disapproving. Allison's laugh returned, but brittle. You've always had strong words for the monarchy. Looking back, do you regret any of it? Meghan's voice turned icy. Regret? None. The monarchy is a relic, an ornament polished for tourists while it crushes those within. I spoke the truth. I'll never apologize for that. The studio froze. Allison's eyes widened slightly before she recovered. Her smile stretched thin. Well, that's certainly one way to put it. Dermot tried to interject. What Meghan means is... But Meghan cut across him, her voice sharp as glass. What I mean is exactly what I said. I don't need an interpreter, Dermot. The studio audience gasped. Allison leaned back, inhaling slowly, her hands tightening on the sofa's edge. For the first time in her long career, her patience was visibly thinning. Dermot glanced nervously between her and the cameras. Right, he said quickly. We'll take a short break in just a moment. But first, Meghan, what do you hope people take away from your projects moving forward? Her answer came fast, sharp, unflinching. That truth has no expiration date. No matter how much institutions or morning shows try to bury it. The words hit like a hammer. Allison's smile disappeared. The warmth in her eyes hardened into something colder, sharper. Dermot caught the look and knew a storm was brewing. When the show returned from commercial, the tension hadn't lifted. Dermot forced a professional smile, but Allison's energy had changed. Her sparkle was gone, replaced with calculation and frustration. Meghan, by contrast, looked perfectly at ease, perched elegantly as though she owned the room. Dermot jumped in first. "Now, Meghan, before the break, you spoke about truth. Your projects spark strong reactions, both positive and critical. How do you handle constant scrutiny?" Meghan smirked. "Perspective, Dermot. Criticism is usually jealousy in disguise. People tear down what they don't understand. I don't care about winning over the masses. If they can't rise to my level, that's their burden." The audience shifted uneasily. Allison gave a brittle laugh. "Well, not everyone at home sees it that way. Some just feel confused. You've spoken harshly against the monarchy, but people also point out you benefited enormously from your title, your connections, your visibility." Meghan's head snapped toward her, smile gone. "Benefited? You mean survived? Do you know what it's like to be chewed up by a machine and spit out as a caricature? The monarchy gave me nothing. I built who I am. My platform is mine, not theirs." Allison's face tightened. "But Meghan, with respect, your global recognition came because you married into the royal family. That's what gave you the stage you're standing on today." A few shocked gasps rippled through the crowd. Dermot tried to smooth it over. "What Allison means is—" But Meghan cut him off. "No, I heard exactly what she meant. And it's insulting. My worth isn't defined by a family tree. I'm not clinging to borrowed fame." Allison's grip on her cue card stiffened. "Yet you continue to talk about the royals at every opportunity. Isn't that still clinging? If you truly wanted to move on, why keep bringing them up?" Meghan leaned back, posture radiating arrogance. "Because silence protects abusers, Allison. If that makes people uncomfortable, maybe they should examine their own complicity, instead of questioning me." The air snapped taut. Even Dermot faltered, shifting uncomfortably. Let's not forget Meghan's projects also focus on charity, wellness, giving back. But Allison wasn't smiling anymore. Her voice cut like glass. "I don't question giving back, Meghan. I question the way you present yourself as a victim while living in luxury. People at home are struggling with bills, with food, with reality. Do you understand how your words sound to them?" Meghan blinked, incredulous. "Luxury? Are we really reducing my life to the square footage of my house? That's beneath you." Allison's voice rose, her famous laugh gone. "What's beneath me, Meghan, is the arrogance you've shown since sitting down. Every question is an attack. Every criticism is jealousy. People are tired of being lectured by someone who claims to despise the crown, but wore it gladly when it suited her." The audience erupted in murmurs. Dermot raised his hands quickly. All right, let's just—" But Allison's eyes flashed, her tone fierce. "You talk about surviving the monarchy, Meghan, but the truth is you used it. You used the platform, the spotlight, the global attention. And when it stopped serving you, you turned around and branded it toxic. You can't have it both ways." Meghan's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, she looked rattled. She straightened her blazer, eyes narrowing at Allison. "I don't need to justify myself to morning show hosts. I've lived a truth bigger than this studio will ever understand." The words dripped with disdain. Allison leaned forward now, abandoning all pretense of bubbly professionalism. "Truth or convenience? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've milked every ounce of fame that marriage gave you. And when people push back, you painted yourself as a martyr. That's not truth, Meghan. That's performance." The audience gasped audibly this time. Some clapping, others stunned into silence. Dermot half rose from his chair, palms out. "Let's calm down, please. We're live and this isn't—" Allison snapped back, not at Dermot, but at Meghan. "Do you have any idea how offensive it is to sit here morning after morning, talking to people who work hard for everything they have, while you sit there sneering about being misunderstood, all while cashing in on the very system you despise?" "Enough is enough." The silence that followed was thunderous. Meghan crossed her arms tightly, her chin lifted high. When she spoke, her voice was cold steel. If the British public expected me to bow forever in gratitude for scraps, they chose the wrong woman. I will never apologize for refusing to be silent. Not for you. Not for anyone. Allison exhaled slowly, her voice trembling but firm. Then maybe this interview should end right here. Because I won't sit here and watch you sneer at every question, Meghan. This is this morning, not your personal soapbox. Dermot moved quickly, desperate to salvage the wreck. Let's take another quick break. But the damage was already done. The audience knew it. The producers knew it. And Meghan knew it. The showdown was no longer simmering. It had boiled over. The next part would decide who walked out of that studio intact and who didn't. The break was short, but it didn't cool the heat radiating on set. When the cameras came back live, Dermot wore a strained smile, clinging to control of a segment that had spun off script. Beside him, Allison sat rigid, her shoulders squared, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and resolve. Meghan Markle, poised as ever, leaned back in her seat with her arms crossed, chin tilted defiantly, daring anyone to challenge her further. Dermot cleared his throat. Welcome back to This Morning. We've been having a very candid conversation with Meghan Markle about her projects and her experiences. Meghan, let's try to steer this towards something positive. You've spoken often about empowerment. What message would you like to leave with our viewers today? Meghan's lips curled into a thin smile, but her voice carried a sharp edge. The message is simple, Dermot. Stop expecting women like me to constantly explain ourselves. Stop demanding gratitude for circumstances that came with as much pain as privilege. I don't owe anyone my silence, least of all a television audience. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some clapped politely, others whispered. Allison exhaled, shaking her head slowly. Her patience had been stretched to its breaking point. Meghan, she began, her voice calm but strained. No one here is demanding your silence, but the way you've handled yourself today, dismissing every question, belittling every challenge, that's not strength. That's arrogance. Meghan's eyebrows shot up. Arrogance? Allison, perhaps you should consider that my refusal to bow down to petty criticism is confidence, not arrogance. Maybe that's something you're not used to seeing in women like me. Gasps rippled through the audience. Allison froze, then leaned forward, her voice dropping into a dangerous register. Don't you dare, Meghan! Don't you twist this into some narrative about people being threatened by your strength. I've championed women my entire career. What I won't champion is rudeness, entitlement, and a complete lack of accountability. Dermot raised his hands again, pleading. All right, let's... But Allison's words thundered over him, unstoppable. You say you hate the monarchy, Meghan. You say it suffocated you, that it destroyed you. But let's be real. You wouldn't be sitting on this sofa today if you hadn't married into it. You wouldn't have Netflix deals, book deals, or headlines. You used the crown when it suited you, then spat it out when it didn't. And now you sit here sneering at every question, as though the world owes you something. The studio erupted in shocked gasps and murmurs. Meghan's face flushed crimson, her jaw tightening. How dare you suggest I used anyone? My marriage is about love, Allison. My life is my own. And if I've chosen to share parts of my truth with the world, that's my right. Allison leaned in, her voice fierce and unrelenting. Love? Then why does it always look like you're cashing in on your husband's name? Prince Harry, the man people actually respected before all of this circus, has been reduced to a sidekick in your brand. You talk about independence, yet every door you've walked through was opened by him. Admit it. You've leaned on his fame, and you've milked it dry. The words hit like a hammer. The audience gasped louder than ever, some even applauding the bluntness. Dermot visibly panicked, his voice pitching upward. Okay, let's keep this professional. But Meghan snapped, her voice sharp as glass. I will not sit here and be accused of exploiting my own husband on national television. This is a disgraceful ambush. And frankly, Allison, it says more about you than it does about me. Allison didn't flinch. Her voice rose above Meghan's fury, clear and resolute. "No, Meghan. It says everything about you. The truth is, you strutted onto this set with nothing but condescension, mocking every question, acting like you're too important to be challenged. Well, let me tell you something. This is This Morning, not your personal PR machine. And I won't sit here and let you talk down to us, or our audience, for one more second." The audience burst into applause, some even standing. Meghan's mouth opened as though to deliver a final retort, but Allison cut her off with a hand raised. "Enough. This interview is over. You've shown exactly who you are, and this program will not continue to give you a platform for this arrogance." Meghan stood abruptly, yanking off her microphone. The wire snagged for a moment before she tore it free, her movements sharp and furious. She looked down at Allison, her voice trembling with rage. "You'll regret this. The world will see how you treated me today." Allison's reply was firm and final. "The world just saw exactly how you treated yourself, Meghan. Don't blame me for that." With that, Meghan spun on her heel and stormed off the set, her heels clacking like gunshots against the floor. The studio doors swung shut behind her, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Dermot sat frozen, glancing between Allison and the cameras. Allison took a deep breath, then faced the audience, her expression softening with genuine regret. "To everyone watching at home, I want to apologize for what just happened. That wasn't the interview we planned, and it certainly wasn't the tone we wanted. But sometimes live television shows people as they truly are, and today, we all saw it." The audience erupted into applause, this time for Allison. Dermot nodded solemnly. "We'll be back after the break." The cameras faded to black, but the clip would not. By the afternoon, social media would be ablaze with hashtags, headlines, and debates. Meghan Markle's disastrous appearance on This Morning would go down as one of the most shocking live television moments in British history.